Good evening, everybody. Here we are in Mount Beauty. Welcome to meeting 3 for this year, 31st of March. I wanted to start by just making comment on the events of yesterday at the Wollongong, I think I got that right, around the search for the fugitive Desmond Philby, and reflect on the tragedy and loss that has had a deep and lasting effect on many families, friends and colleagues. It's still very much a police operation. There's still a lot of investigation into what's gone on for the last 7 months. And our role as council is to very much look after each other and our communities, and encourage people to reach out to friends and colleagues if they need any support. And there's also a range of support places available, mentioned on our website, but you can also Google them, things like Beyond Blue and etc. for those who might need it. We move on after that to item 1, recording and live streaming of council meetings, and I invite the CEO, Mr. Jeremy, to read a statement.
All council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area, however, audio from the entire room is captured. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. By submitting a question, you consent to your question being read aloud at the meeting. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is to hold us more accountable and improve transparency of council's decision-making to our community. The full meeting is being streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel shortly after this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Jeremy. Item 2 is acknowledgement of traditional custodians and recognition of all people, and I invite all to stand. Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands on which we are meeting today. Council also acknowledges all of the traditional owners of the wider lands of the area known as the Alpine Shire. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and who strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all. Thank you. Item 3 is confirmation of minutes from the ordinary council meeting M2 held on the 24th of February 2026, and we have a recommendation that the minutes as circulated be confirmed, councillors. Moved by Councillor Ronco, seconded by Councillor Smith, because he hasn't been here for ages. Well, I just hadn't used your name for a while, Peter. Mr. Smith, I mean. Councillor Ronco, do you have anything to add? Councillor Smith? No? Any other councillors? No? I will take that to the vote. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Item 4 is apologies, and we have an apology from Councillor Anderson tonight, who has some family business, couldn't make it. And next is item 5, obituaries and congratulations. And I'm going to start on my right with Councillor Byrne. Councillor Ronco.
Just as a congratulations, but 2 things that I found in our community. So it was Gateway Health and Alpine Health who organized some classes at the Popunka Outdoor Fitness Equipment, and I think it's a good thing for our residents to still be active and to be a bit more healthy. So that's one. And the second one is walking football for Health Victoria. So now I know you have some in Bright and also Mount Beauty, and I think it's the 2 are very good for our residents to stay active the longest and to be healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Councillor Graham.
Nothing.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I'd just like to pass on congratulations to the organisers of the Stampede that happened on the weekend. It brought a lot of people into town. It brings a lot of money into the Alpine Shire. It's a fantastic event which it was well needed. We've had a bit of a downturn over the last few months, so together with Easter coming up and those sort of events, it's just good to have people around town. And I know, talking to a few business owners, they were all spending. But it was just a great event, really well run, and well done to the organisers and the volunteers that helped in that particular event. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillor Tanzan? No. It's always hard when you're the last. I was also going to fill up the Buffalo Stampede and not just thank the organisers and the volunteers, but also congratulate the competitors and particularly those who managed to get a personal best. And I just happened to have someone staying with me who did that, yeah, a lovely young woman. And there was I can't remember the fellow's name, which is unforgivable really, but there was the winner was an Australian of the 100-kilometre run, which is pretty gruelling by all accounts. And congratulations very much to everyone who went in that, but certainly to the winner. I also wanted to pull up a community event which was held at Harrietville, and it was about using auto defib machines and CPR. So really important. Most people who learn how to do CPR practice it on somebody they know the first time they ever do it. So it's nice to know that you can help someone that you love or somebody just on the street. So well done to the people in Harrietville who made that happen. We'll move on to declarations by councillors of conflict of interest. Item 6. Do we have any conflicts to declare tonight, councillors? No. And we all know that if we suddenly think that there might be one, then we could declare it at that time. Public questions. I will take some questions on notice first and then questions from the floor. But I just wanted to point out that questions from the floor and on notice should be limited to items of public interest, and they're not intended to replace council's ordinary customer process. And I actually remembered halfway through that we don't have any questions on notice tonight, but we did get a very late submission from a community member who's concerned about local childcare and recent announcement of cost increases, and we will address that in general business. We'll raise that and have a bit of a chat about what we know and what's going on. So watch this space for that. So on that note, I invite questions from the floor, and I would ask people to step up to the mic and say where they come from and their name, please. Oh. Mr. Dyer. I've noted.
Is it turned on? It is, okay. My name's Ray Dyer and I reside at Nuttall. I got a letter from the CEO just as I walked into the meeting, and also it was brought up last council meeting about the minutes of the meetings not being the question time and congratulations and obituaries not being put in the question time and being recorded in the minutes of the meetings. Will says that it's more accountable, and I cannot see how it can be accountable when you leave written questions and everything else in the meeting that actually went on. You're supposed to have the meeting that is true and correct, and each one of you new councillors all vote on that.
Mr. Dyer, what's your question, please?
As far as I'm concerned, that the minutes, they should have question times, the questions, and also the obituaries and congratulations. I got
Thank you.
minutes, hang on, Miss Mayor, I'm still talking. I got minutes of the meetings for nearly 10 years with the Alpine Shire until Peter Roper actually became mayor. And I walked into the council meeting one day because they get nearly to the end of the month. When I pick them up, I go up to the right Shire office and they type out for me. And I went up there one Friday and I rang the Shire and they said they're not ready. So my mate got on the internet at Port Bunker and it was up on the internet, the minutes. So I went back to the Shire and I said, I don't like being lied to, when I said to Peter Roper. And his words were, in future, you get your minutes from the Myrtle Pit Library.
Mr. Dyer, I'm still
That's
waiting
what
for.
he said.
I'm still waiting for a question, Mr. Dyer, of public interest.
The public interest, I think the public needs to be aware of that, because if you start being not accountable in little things, it all comes out and it gets into bigger and bigger and big. I don't believe there should be accountability right through, and with the minutes, it is not being accountable, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank
20
you.
years ago when I was doing when the minutes were being done, they were written out incorrectly. They were putting it in, as to how they want it, and every time, I went to the meetings quite a few times saying that the minutes are not right.
Thank you.
Now, the second question is that I believe I asked last month too, but the month before, and the month before that, and even the month before that, as to the trees. The trees around Myrtleford for the last year and a half have been cut down, and I had a mayor from the previous mayor, when the pin oak that was over 90 years old in Coles car park, or the entrance to Coles car park in Myrtleford was cut down. And John Forsyth at the time said, the tree's been cut down, what are you going to do about it? Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's been that many trees cut down in Myrtleford over the last year and a half. Last meeting, I believe, I asked for a copy of all the trees in the Alpine Shire that have been cut down.
Mr. Dyer, one of the requirements about questions is to not to continually ask the same question. We have addressed this question
My question is,
to you.
when do I get the paperwork I asked for about the trees being cut down in the Alpine Shire for the last year and a half? Because I want to find how many trees in Myrtle have been cut down, Mount Beauty, Bright, Wandilla, and Harryville. And I have every right for that, the same as the minutes of the meetings.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Mr. Jacob, would you like to come to the mic? Thanks.
Good evening, everybody, and I'd like to thank the council for allowing me to table 2 questions. As this is the first time I visited the Alpine Council meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'm not going to go into great detail. I'm just going to ask the first question. Sorry. Yes, I'm Neville Jacob from the Jacob Group of Companies. And we have 9 investment properties in the Alpine Shire. Communication is our concern in light of our investment in the Alpine Shire, and we are unable to obtain a meeting with the council. And we're unable to obtain a meeting with the councillor and councillors. I'm not sure how the Constitution condemns our refusal to have a meeting with you people that I'm talking to now.
So your question is, could we have a meeting? Is that really?
We've requested in writing, we've requested in phone calls, we've requested meeting times in text messages, and the reply is unavailable. We can give you the evidence of the meetings, the dates, the times. This is not about picking on people. This is about a process that we find very difficult to handle in light of what we're trying to achieve. So,
sorry for the interruption.
So if someone could come back to me, I don't need an answer tonight.
So a question on notice.
How do we get to talk to you about the second question, which is approval times for a renovation for Myrtleford that started with Sam Porter on the 22nd of the 9th, 21. And still today, the council cannot give me endorsed plans.
So this is not a public interest matter. I understand that you're concerned.
It is because of all the people I employ and then people that are impaired in that area and are penalised because this is not going ahead.
Understood.
So it's affecting
your
the
perspective,
public people. So is that not interest that it's affecting the community?
I understand that perspective, and I think the only thing we can do though is take that question on notice as well.
So you don't want to give me direction on how I overcome this problem?
I don't think this is the appropriate forum, Mr. Jacobs, because this is...
But I can't have a meeting with you to discuss it. Because I've been rejected every time I try to meet. So if you're rejecting me meeting with you, how do I get through this? How do we overcome this multi-million-dollar development when we're getting rejected?
Okay. I have a director who would like to address your concerns right now, as best we can in a public meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Jacobs, are you happy for the detail of your development to be discussed in an open forum now, or would you rather take this on offline? Because I'm happy to let you know where we think the issues are with the endorsed plans that you require.
Yeah, if you could arrange a meeting, because there's a letters from your solicitor that we worked with for 5 months, and I've got confirmation that we are now sufficient detail regarding your existing use of the land and do not require any further documentation on this matter.
So thank you, Mr Jacobs. That's in regard to the extension to time planning permit that you submitted, which has been resolved. The issue of the endorsed plans is an engineering issue and an issue with regard to the referral authority with the intersection with the Great Alpine Road, is what I understand. And an email has been sent to you in the last couple of weeks from the Planning Department outlining the ongoing technical issues with getting those plans endorsed and what is still required.
That's not what I've got here.
So there's been 2 separate processes. One process is the planning permit process, which my understanding is resolved. The other is an engineering process around the endorsed plans and the intersection with the Great Alpine Road, which is not resolved. The lawyer's letter refers to the planning process, which has been resolved, but there is an outstanding engineering issue with the Department of Transport and Planning, is my understanding. And there is ongoing requirements to fulfil their requirements for the intersection with the roads that requires further technical information to be provided. That's my understanding of why those plans have not been endorsed, but I'm happy to liaise with the departments internally and have them resend to your office the information that is still required to finalise the endorsed plans issues that are outstanding.
Okay, the fact that the Alpine Shire forgot to ask for public objection to the building, has that got anything to do with our delay?
No, that's a completely separate issue, and public objections were requested for the building previously. However, there was another administrative error, but that is a planning permit issue. The issues that are outstanding about endorsed plans are about engineering issues with the design and the plans, is my understanding. We can re-forward through the technical information that's required to finalise the endorsed plans. I've been told that they were sent through to the office in the last couple of weeks, to your office.
Okay.
But I can ask for them to be sent through again, but they are 2 separate issues. The planning issues have been resolved. It is outstanding engineering issues.
I've got information here to say that you people have accepted, accepted what you're asking for. You've already got it.
Yep.
Do you want I don't want to name the people and point out.
No, I completely agree with that, and that's with regard to the outstanding planning issues, and they have been resolved. The issues with the plans are not resolved. They are 2 separate issues. One is a planning permit issue, one's an endorsed plan issue.
We understand that, but we've got the evidence for both for you.
Well, thank you. We can re-forward through the technical information that's still required to finalise the endorsement of those plans.
So do we send it to you?
I'll ask so my understanding is that the email was previously provided to you and it will tell you where to provide that information. It needs to come through the statutory portals so that they can be assessed. So if you need to provide more information, they'll need to be provided, and I will get the email that outlined exactly what was needing to be provided to be re-forwarded to your office. It doesn't need to come through to me. I'm not an engineer. I can't assess the plans. It needs to come through to the department that's assessing the plans.
I'm hearing everything you're saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Jacobs. Mr Smith.
Good evening. Am I allowed to just introduce myself to the councillors?
Please introduce yourself, your name and where you're from.
Okay, my name is Mike Smith. I've lived in Toowoomba South for 46 years and my wife's on here for 27 years. Our children went to school here. We both love the area and feel we are very privileged to live here. For most of my time, I've been a self-employed builder and small developer, and over the years developed 7 homes for ourselves and many more for others. I'm a keen gardener and a passionate tree planter and have been involved in many tree planting days. Excuse me. I'm here today to ask 2 simple questions. I wrote to all the councillors in a group message. Councillor Rocco was the only one that replied. I thank him. And apparently, if you're in a group message, it's up to the mayor to answer for the group councillors. Is that the case?
Mr Smith, we need just 2 questions.
Yes, 2 questions.
So that's 1.
Yeah.
That wasn't a group message.
Well, that wasn't a question. That was just whether you answer for That wasn't a question. That was just whether you answer for the councillors, because they didn't reply to me.
That is a question, Mr. Smith.
Well, then I got 3 questions.
No. No, you have 2 questions. So if you want me to answer that question, that is one of your questions.
Well, it's a question of process. I ask the councillors, they tell me that you have to answer for them. That's the only. Well, it's not a question. Apart from, is that the process? I don't know. I don't know what the process is.
So, okay, I'll answer the question. So we had a discussion about it. For a start, you didn't send it to all the councillors. You left me off the list. And then, secondly, the questions, when we had our one-on-one meeting, we said that you needed to go to an ombudsman if you had some concerns about what was going on. So that was, to me, the answer to those questions. And as councillors, we had a quick chat and thought that it was the best option for the Mayor to address those questions when we had the one-on-one meeting.
So I'm not publicly allowed to ask the question?
You can ask, but they don't have to answer you.
Well, it seems a bit strange. But anyway, I'll ask the question. I'll ask 2 questions. The first one is, do the councillors, these people here, expect the Alpine Shire to conform to relevant Australian standards? Yes, da. You can answer, you don't have to answer. And the second question is, do the residents of the Alpine Shire have a right to expect the Alpine Shire to act in good faith and to abide by their own rules and regulations? I don't know how I got an answer to that, but that's the question.
As we said in the one-on-ones, if you have some concerns about any behaviour that has happened within the council and the processes, you can take it to an external body.
I think you're shirking your responsibilities for not allowing an internal investigation as per your complaints department. You know, you have a complaints policy.
There's 2 separate issues.
Perhaps if I could jump in here, so I'll reflect on our conversation on Friday. So, Mr. Smith, Mike, Sonia, thanks very much for your time on Friday. What I understand is you made a complaint to our office about some works that were done. If I could simplify the situation for the audience. You made a complaint, you were unhappy with the response that you've got, and you asked for that response to be escalated. That was the summary of my understanding of the situation. You're unhappy with some works that were delivered, relates to the topic whether or not council officers complied with Australian standards, but largely you were unhappy with the response. We had a conversation, and what I said to you, Mike and Sonia, was, I am struggling because your complaint and the engagement you've had with our organisation over the last number of years has touched many different teams in the organisation.
Yeah,
and I said to you, hand on heart, I don't believe I can put forward an internal officer to carry out an independent assessment of this complaint whose views you would respect and their judgment coming out of that. So what I said to you was, hand on heart, we could do an investigation and we could come back with a report, but I don't believe that we have, I look at my directors, I look at the managers who've been involved in this matter, I cannot find an officer in the organisation that is truly independent of the problems that you've presented over the years. My advice, therefore, was when we look at our complaints policy, the next step where we're unable internally to find an officer is to have that escalated outside the organisation in order for that investigation to be entirely independent of any bias, including myself, my directors, any potential bias. That was the response I provided to you and Sonia on Friday. I did, however, say I would take that away and discuss it with the 2 directors, and we would establish whether, hand on heart, there was anyone internally who had the capability and the technical knowledge to carry out the investigation. So I've raised that conversation. We haven't closed it out yet, but when we have done, I will come back to you and Sonia, and I will advise you either A, we believe there's an officer we can put forward to conduct an internal investigation that is unbiased and uninfluenced by what has happened, or B, we recommend you go to the Ombudsman because we're unable to put forward someone internally, hand on heart, whose opinion you're going to believe when that investigation rolls out. So that, from my perspective, is the conversation we had on Friday, which I think it's important that the audience understand that. We are not shirking our responsibilities to do an internal investigation. We are saying, hand on heart, we don't believe that you will respect the outcome from an internal investigation because we're struggling to find people in our organisation who have not dealt with you over the period of time that you've had challenges.
Thank you for your...
Yeah.
Am I allowed to reply to you?
Quickly.
It's a little bit confusing. You're welcome. You're happy to spend money on high-powered Melbourne solicitors to do whatever you do against me. Why not just employ a mediator outside of your organisation to look at this in a similar matter?
Can
I really don't want to go to the Ombudsman. You know, it's a long, complicated problem, and it needs to be resolved quicker.
Could I share some perspective? We had another member of the community, it was actually the Mount Beauty Toowoomba South community, who made a complaint against council officers recently. We used council funds and we went independent of the organisation in order to have what we believed was an independent assessment of that complaint. And when we delivered the outcome from that independent assessment, we were advised by that member of this community that it was unacceptable and that the complaint was biased because we had engaged an independent person. So I'm learning from that experience. Honestly, from our perspective, the Ombudsman is brilliant. They're totally independent. Their job is to do exactly what you would like them to do in this situation, to have a totally independent view. They sit in the middle. They receive information from you and Sonia about the problems that you've experienced. They give an opportunity to council officers to respond independently, and they sit in the middle. They are a brilliant organisation. They're very experienced. They deal with all kinds of complex matters. There is no cost for engaging the Ombudsman from your side or from council's side, and they provide what we believe is the only way to get a truly independent assessment of the challenges that you and Sonia have experienced. That is why I made that recommendation or I'm close to making a recommendation to go to the Ombudsman, because I think you'll get a response you can trust. Okay. Whereas I think any other route does not give you a response that you will trust.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any further questions from the floor? No. Thank you. We will move on to presentation of reports by officers. And we start with Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Jeremy, with 8.1.1. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report contains a recommendation. The recommendation is that the capital project contracts approved under delegation by the CEO be noted. So just for the awareness of the people in the audience here, so Council CEO has a delegation up to $200,000 to award contracts. Above $200,000, those contracts must come to Council for approval. So my delegation is to sign up to 200. Beyond that, it sits in this room. However, where I approve a contract which sits within my delegation, for transparency, I bring that to Council so that Council can see the large contracts which are being awarded within my delegation, but of interest to the community. So each month we have the contracts that have been awarded the previous month. In the last month, there was only one contract that I signed off on under delegation, which was the report that's in front of you, which has the title Solar PV System Upgrades for Council Buildings. The successful tenderer through that process, which was through an RFQ process, was Alps Industries, and they're based in Myrtleford. The budget which is allocated has two parts. So within Council's adopted annual budget, there was an allocation of $150,000 for this project. However, following adoption of the budget, Council was successful in a grant application and received an allocation of a further $48,300 to deliver upgrades to the St Albans Hall. So that left us with a budget of $198,300. And what I'm advising today is that I awarded under delegation a contract with a value of $163,944.55 plus GST for the works which are identified under that contract.
Thank you, Mr. Jeremy. Councillors. The recommendation is that the capital project contracts approved under delegation by the CEO be noted. Moved by Councillor Smith. Seconded by Councillor Byrne. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, if you could just explain which buildings in the Shire that the works will be completed on, please.
wrong one. Director Assets, Mrs Buckley.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. The buildings that are covered under this award are the Bright Office. Are you interested in the kilowatt sizes or just the locations? Bright Office, the Bright Council Depot, the Bright VIC, which includes the tenanted property, Dinner Plain Depot, Myrtleford Swimming Pool and St Albans Hall.
Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Director Buckley. Have you, part of the business case, have you worked out what the return on investment will be for this project?
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. It's an exciting thing that solar now has a much quicker payback period. It used to be around about the 10-year mark. For this project, on average, across all of the buildings, it's sitting at about 3.2 years return on investment. We'll be making around about $34,000 per year. That excludes St Albans Hall in that calculation because we got a grant for that project. It also, at the moment, excludes the VIC and tenanted property because we're putting them on sub-meters and we're working out who gets the return and who pays for what. Barry, thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Graham.
Thank you. Ms Buckley, could you give us an indication of what sort of infrastructure is being installed at these locations?
Thank you, Councillor Graham. It's a mix of solar and solar plus battery. So we've got solar and battery on at the Bright Depot. When we do an assessment of whether it's solar or solar and battery, it's essentially, you know, the best return on investment. So that location was picked for its best return on investment because it requires power overnight. And there was one other location, Dinner Plain Depot as well, St Albans Hall, apologies. So Bright Council Depot and St Albans Hall, which was the one that was through the grant program, which has a 12 kilowatt system and a 22 kilowatt battery.
Councillor Ronco.
Yes, and just to confirm that the saving will be reallocated to the capital works budget.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Referring to that we had over $198,000 set aside, including the grant funding for this project, and it's come in at 163. So that money is kept in the capital budget to be utilised if we need other projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments, councillors? No? Take this one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? It's unanimous. Thank you. Oh dear. And we move to item 8.1.2, the Audit and Risk Committee Biennial Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents the 2025-26 biannual report on the activities of the Alpine Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee. The biennial report is a requirement of Section 54 of the Local Government Act 2020. So, Council has an Audit and Risk Committee, which is established under Section 53 of the Local Government Act, and this is an advisory committee to Council, so it cannot make decisions, but it provides advice to Council. The primary purpose of this committee is to assist Council to discharge its responsibilities by providing oversight, advice and governance on Council's frameworks, systems and controls which relate to legislative and good governance compliance, financial and performance reporting, risk management and internal and external audit. And under the Act, the Audit and Risk Committee must prepare a biannual audit and risk report, and this must be provided to the Chief Executive Officer for tabling, which is what's happening at this meeting. So this report provides Council with information on a few things: committee membership, meetings and attendance, and the achievement of the committee's annual work plan. Of note, for committee membership, we have 2 councillors appointed to the committee, and they're appointed by Council. So Councillors Dave Byrne and Councillor Peter Smith, they're both appointed members of the committee. We also have a number of independent members, and the intent there was that we bring in skills and expertise and an external view of council's activities that we don't perhaps contain within the skills within our members. So we have 4 independent members on the panel at the current time. Councillors are also invited to every meeting of the Audit and Risk Committee. So even though we've only got 2 councillors appointed to committee, councillors are welcome to attend, and councillors do frequently attend Audit and Risk Committee meetings. It's a really good way to get an oversight into how the organisation is being governed and what some of the issues are that are being dealt with operationally within the organisation. Key activities and reviews undertaken by the committee over the period 1st of July to 31st of December are listed in the report, and I'll call out a couple of them just so you can get a flavour of what the Auditing Committee is working on. So reviewing the annual financial report and the Victorian Auditor General's report for the year ending 30th of June 2025. So the Audit and Risk Committee play a key role in oversighting Council's financial performance. Monitoring the implementation of actions arriving from audits, various integrity agency recommendations and committee recommendations. So the Audit and Risk Committee checks that Council, when we have a list of actions and we say we'll do actions and we commit to them, that we follow through and close them out. The committee reviews health and safety reports and analyses trends and data as well as any WorkSafe reportable incidents. So they get oversight about how Council is performing in relation to health and safety of the workforce. And it also received recently first audit report from the internal auditors which have been appointed. So Council has an external organisation that carries out audits of the organisation to provide input into Council and the Audit and Risk Committee about how the organisation is being run. So that the Audit and Risk Committee provides oversight of those activities. So the recommendation this evening is that Council notes the Alpine Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee 2025-26 biennial report for the period 1st of July to 30th of December 2021, 31st of December, sorry, provided to the Chief Executive Officer in accordance with Section 54(5) of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Jeremy. Councillors. Moved, Councillor Byrne. Seconded, Councillor Smith. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor Nicholas. I'd like to note for the first time this year we appointed Crowe as our internal auditors and received their first report back on council procurement procedures and practices, of which it was a very strong report and supported the practices we undertake. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just further to Councillor Byrne, I find these meetings really good. They're very thorough. There's some very well-credentialed people that help Councillor Dave Byrne and myself on there. Learn a lot. It's great that we're all involved in these meetings and every councillor that joins in learns a lot. And the way they govern us and are very strict, I think it's very valuable and it's a really good meeting every time we catch up. So I'd like to thank those people for the professional job they do. It's really good.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Ronco, did you have anything to say about it being the best meeting?
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. Any other comments from councillors? No, we'll take the item to the vote. All those in favour? And that is unanimous. Thank you. We move on to 8.2, Director of Assets, Ms Buckley. 8.2.1, Bright... I'll let you introduce it, Ms Buckley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 8.2.1, Bright Valley Development Road Deviation and Land Exchange. This report seeks Council's approval to deviate parts of a government road between Great Alpine Road and Stacky Gully Road, Bright, and to carry out a land exchange with the adjoining landowner. Just as a way of background, in 2005, the subject site along the land on the northern side of the Great Alpine Road was identified through the Alpine Residential Land Review as the preferred area for the urban growth of Bright in order to facilitate additional residential development. On the 20th of January 2011, Amendment C15 to the Alpine Planning Scheme was approved by the Minister of Planning and included in the Victoria Government Gazette. The Bright Valley Development Plan was approved by Council on the 5th of May 2022. Stage 1 and 2 planning permit was approved by Council on the 30th of November 2023. In order to align with the Bright Valley Development Plan that's already been adopted, it is required that the existing unused government road traversing through the freehold land is deviated to the necessary alignment. The reason for the deviation is to improve the connection angle at Great Alpine Road intersection, avoid various constraints preventing the construction of a road within the existing road reserve, notably the gradient at several points along the reserve, and to avoid a cluster of native vegetation and gradient at the southern end of the reserve. At its ordinary council meeting on the 9th of September 2025, council resolved to commence the statutory procedures in respect of the proposed road deviation and land exchange. The existing government road is Crown land set aside as a government road and not currently constructed as a road. This is reflected in attachment 1 of the report. It's proposed that the road be deviated as follows: to first discontinue those parts of the road which are shown hatched on the plan in the attachment 2, and to designate the land shown cross-hatched on the plan in the attachment 2 as a road comprising parts of the land contained in the certificates. Together, the road deviation makes the road deviation. Council has agreed to consider undertaking the road deviation by exercising its power under the Local Government Act 1989. As the roads are government roads, which, if the road deviation is completed, would result in vesting of former Crown land in Council. Council is required to obtain the consent of the Minister administering the Land Act 1958. Council has obtained consent from the Department of Environment, Energy and Climate Action. This is in attachment 3. If the road deviation is completed, its effect will be to, firstly, designate the new road as a road for the purpose of the Local Government Act 1989, which will vest in Council at law, and vest the unused road in Council at law pursuant to section listed in the report as part of the Local Government Act. Subject to Council making a decision to undertake this road deviation, parties have agreed to realign the title boundaries of the adjoining properties so that they are consistent with the location of the new roads. The unused road will be transferred from Council to the owner of the adjoining property. The title of the new road will be registered in Council's name, and the parties will submit an application in a form required by the Land Registry, with effect that the title boundaries of the adjoining owner's properties will be realigned to reflect the new boundaries between adjoining owner and the new road. It's worth mentioning a section on the unused road licence. On the 29th of July 2025, submitted a request to DECA to seek the cancellation of the unused road licence over the road in order to facilitate the road deviation and the land exchange. On the 26th of August 2025, Council received a copy of a letter from DECA confirming that the licence had been cancelled. On the 10th of September 2025, it's worth noting that Council gave public notice on its website, Facebook and Instagram pages and on Council's Engage platform. Council received 4 submissions in response to the public notice, 3 seeking further information and 1 submission in support of the proposal. A summary of those submissions and Council's responses can be found in attachment 5. Worth noting that Council and the adjoining owner have agreed that no monetary consideration is payable for the transfer of the unused road to the adjoining owner, on the basis that the value of the new road is $970,250 and the value of the unused road is $970,125. The adjoining owner has agreed to bear the following costs in connection with the road deviation and land exchange: stamp duty, lodging and PEXA fees, valuation fees in connection with this. We've also got listed in the report the risks that have been identified. Council has entered into an agreement with the adjoining landowner to document in principle agreement between Council and the adjoining landowner regarding the land exchange. Therefore, this evening it is recommended, and I'll summarise because it's a very long recommendation listed in the report. Having followed the required statutory procedures under the relevant parts of the Act and the sections in the Local Government Act, and having considered the submissions received in response to its public notice of the proposal, that Council resolves to deviate part of the government road between Great Alpine Road and Stacky Gully Road Bright, and you can see listed in the report what that comprises of. That Council, subject to Council first resolving to proceed with the road deviation, resolves to complete the land exchange, and that is also listed in the report. That Council directs that a notice under the clause of the Local Government Act relevant listed in the report be published in the Victorian Government Gazette to give effect to the road deviation, and authorises the Chief Executive Officer to sign any documents necessary to give effect to the road deviation and land exchange.
Thank you, Ms Buckley. Councillors. Moved Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Graham. Councillor Smith.
Issues with any of this, but I just want to confirm there'll be some cost for these works, but that'll be through the developer. Will bear any costs with this amendment?
Thank you, Councillor Smith. That's correct. The developer will incur all costs associated.
Councillor Graham.
I've got nothing to add, thank you.
Do any other councillors have anything they'd like to? Councillor Ronco.
Just, on the fourth submission, so Tree requested more information regarding the proposed intersection to Stacky Gully Road. Could remind us the answer to this request? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Yes, we have responded to those submitters. It's worth noting that the interface with Stacky Gully, whilst the road is, if this goes ahead this evening, the road would be potentially located there, but the intersection and the road hasn't been designed or approved yet. So that's to be determined in future stages. It just allows for a road reserve to be created.
Thank you. Nothing else.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Any other questions? I've just got one, Ms Buckley. If this does go ahead tonight, do you have an idea of what the time frame might be until it gets listed in the Government Gazette and becomes what we work with on the ground?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd be guessing at that, but I would imagine a couple of months is usually how long it takes. Could be slightly longer.
Thank you. No further comments, questions? No? Okay, we'll take this one to the vote. All those in favour of the lengthy recommendation? That's unanimous? Yep. Thank you, everybody. We move on to item 8.2.2, Ms Buckley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 8.2.2 Mount Beauty Pondage Walk Renewal. This report relates to the award of a contract for the renewal of the Mount Beauty Pondage Walk. The Mount Beauty Pondage Walk is a vital recreational loop providing scenic views to the Kiewa Valley and access to local facilities. The trail carries consistent pedestrian and cycle traffic. For this trail to continue servicing the community and visitors in this capacity, renewal is required, including but not limited to approximately 2 kilometres of profiling of the existing pavement to form a 2.5 metre wide base and a new 2 metre wide asphalt wearing course and reinstatement of the path shoulders with topsoil and grass. The tender was advertised on Tendersnet. It was downloaded by 22 prospective tenderers. Council received 2 submissions and the key selection criteria is listed in the report. The timeline of the works taking place is critical to ensure there is no escalation in the construction costs due to weather delays, rising material costs or conflict with planned events. The plan is located within land that is managed by AGL and considered as a tenant improvement, which is part of the existing lease. The path is a council asset with a responsibility for associated renewal and maintenance costs resting with council. A total budget of $250,000 has been allocated for the 25-26 footpath renewal program. The total contract value proposed this evening of this renewal is $237,855 and is inclusive of all work specified within the tender. It's worth noting that the life cycle cost of an asphalt surface is lower than that for a spray seal surface. Due to the significant difference in useful life, so 40 years for an asphalt surface compared to 15 years for a spray seal surface. In addition to the lower life cycle costs, community feedback about user experience is consistently more positive when shared trails and footpaths are delivered with asphalt surfaces compared to spray seal surfaces. We've listed the risks associated in the report itself. As AGL is the land manager of the dam wall where the trail is constructed, they've been consulted about the planned works and have issued their consent. Broader notification of the works will be advertised on Council's Facebook page and website, and impacted residents and businesses and those holding events will be directly contacted prior to works commencing. Therefore, this evening, it is recommended that Council awards contract number 26201 for Mount Beauty Pondage Walk renewal to Richardson's Earthworks and Maintenance for the lump sum of $237,855 GST exclusive, and delegates authority to the Chief Executive Officer to sign and seal the contract at an appropriate time.
Thank you, Ms Buckley. Councillor Tanzin has moved the motion. Councillor Smith has seconded the motion. Councillor Tanzin.
Rookie error. Just one quick question. Will the resurfacing be done around the whole pondage loop or just the parts on the wall?
Thank you, Councillor Tanzan. It's the entire loop. So just under 2 kilometres on top of the wall and just under 1 kilometre on the town side on the path.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, there's only 2 tenders that you got, and I assume they were fairly tightly contested. But Richardson Earthworks, they are a local supplier, I believe, in the Alpine Shire, which I think is great that we award the money to people in our shire, which I think it's a great thing that we keep the money within. So that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Yes, they are local, and it is part of the evaluation criteria that is weighted within our evaluation of our capital works projects.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from councillors? Councillor Ronco.
Could the Director of Asset confirm that this renewal work should extend the life of this asset up to 40 years? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Yes, of course, it's always an average based on what we know of asphalt surfaces, but yes, it's very likely to last for 40 years if it's, maintained and looked after well, and we don't have massive storm events that we weren't expecting.
Thank you. Nothing else.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you. Richardson's Earthworks, I've noted, is based out of Dedarang. So just as a comment, it's nice to see a local getting the job.
Thank you, Councillor Graham.
Any further questions from councillors? Ms Buckley, I have one about the composition of the asphalt and how much recycled material there is going in. I'm sorry, it's without notice.
I'll take that on notice, Madam Mayor. It is likely that there is recycled content. Most of our asphalt projects now do have recycled content, and we certainly assess that in the environmental sustainability section when we're assessing a tender. I couldn't tell you the percentage, but I will find out and bring it back to the next meeting.
I appreciate that. I do remember seeing some, but I just thought you might remember. Thanks. Any further comments, questions? No. We'll take this one to the vote. All those in favour? That one is carried unanimously. Thank you. And we move on to item 8.2.3. Ms Buckley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 8.2.3, Alpine Shire Aquatics and Indoor Stadium Feasibility Study. The purpose of this report is to seek adoption of the Alpine Shire Aquatics and Indoor Stadium Feasibility Study Final Options and Feasibility Report 2026 following completion of the draft community consultation phase. As many in this room would be aware, Council currently operates 3 aquatic facilities located in Bright, Mount Beauty and Myrtleford, and indoor stadium facilities in Mount Beauty and Myrtleford with limited access to Bright Peter 12 College Courts. These facilities play a critical role in supporting community health, sport participation and recreation across the Alpine Shire. However, many of the facilities are ageing and have not been upgraded. The need for a comprehensive feasibility study was identified in the Alpine Shire Sport and Active Recreation Plan 2022. To respond to this need, Council prepared the Aquatics and Indoor Stadium Feasibility Study. The study examined the current condition and functionality in existing facilities, participation trends and community demand, and benchmarking against comparable regional facilities. It also looked at the potential upgrade and redevelopment options and indicative cost estimates and long-term planning considerations. The options analysis, once completed, explored a range of potential upgrade and redevelopment scenarios for each aquatic and indoor stadium, evaluating them against criteria such as cost, functionality, community impact and deliverability. For each facility, a list of line item costs is presented, including renewal and life cycle estimates. The study highlights several key issues affecting the performance and long-term sustainability of our infrastructure. Existing aquatic facilities remain structurally sound with approximately 20 years of remaining useful life. However, there are increasing maintenance costs for ageing plant and infrastructure that will require investment over time and is reflected in Council's asset plan. It is acknowledged that access to aquatic services across the Shire is currently limited due to the seasonal nature of our outdoor pools. Council currently spends approximately $600,000 per year just in operating aquatic facilities, representing a community subsidy of approximately $18 per visit. Indoor stadiums. Indoor court capacity does not currently meet demand across the Shire, particularly in Bright where access to courts is constrained. Participation growth in sports is placing increasing pressure on existing facilities, particularly for basketball and netball. The study found that benchmarking against comparable regional communities supports the provision of an additional indoor court infrastructure in the Shire. In reflecting on next steps, the study provides the evidence base and strategic rationale to inform future capital planning, asset management plan upgrades, investment priorities and advocacy for external funding. At an appropriate time in the future, Council can then move towards concept design and business case development for high priority sites. The study identifies indicative capital investment scenarios across the 3 townships over a long-term horizon. However, these recommendations are conceptual and strategic only. Detailed financial modelling will be required at the time any project progresses to concept design and the business case developed to determine whether the recommendations of the study remain feasible. Council will continue to pursue Australian and Victorian government funding opportunities to support future infrastructure delivery. We've noted the risk items in the report. Significant consultation was done throughout this study, and it was informed by comprehensive stakeholder community engagement. It's worth noting, and listed in the report is the entire list of the engagement undertaken as part of the study, but it is worth noting that 232 survey responses provided us with insight into the current facility use and community aspirations, which was exceptional from our community, so I'd congratulate them on that. Survey responses and stakeholder interviews highlighted strong community interest in aquatic and indoor sports infrastructure across the Shire, reflecting of the importance of improving access to aquatic facilities throughout the year. Stakeholder interviews reinforced the themes listed earlier in the report, with insights into operational constraints, facility condition and opportunities for future upgrades. A recurring theme was the increasing demand for aquatic programs and indoor court space. The key themes are specifically listed in the report. Public consultation on the draft study provided additional feedback beyond the original engagement, which reiterated our earlier results from the survey. Overall, the consultation process has provided Council with a strong evidence base to inform future infrastructure planning, funding advocacy and asset management planning decisions. Therefore, this evening, it is recommended that Council receives and notes the draft Alpine Shire Aquatics and Indoor Stadium Feasibility Study Engagement Report 2026, adopts the Alpine Shire Aquatics and Indoor Stadium Feasibility Study Final Options and Feasibility Report 2026, notes that the study provides long-term strategic recommendations only and does not commit Council to deliver any of the specific projects, notes that the preferred site for any future aquatic or indoor stadium facility will be identified through future structure planning processes for the relevant township, notes that the final scope, timing and staging of any facility upgrades will be determined through a future scoping exercise anticipated to occur within the next 10 to 15 years, and notes that the recommendation of the study will inform future asset management planning, infrastructure prioritisation and external funding advocacy.
Thank you, Ms Buckley. Very thorough report. Moved, Councillor Byrne. Seconded, Councillor Ronco. Councillor Byrne.
Director Buckley, I note that's a very, very detailed and disciplined study and outlines long-term strategic recommendations. Have we identified any actions and steps that we need to take in the short term to keep this plan moving?
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Very good question. So, given that it's such a large study and there is a significant amount of infrastructure that is suggested, what it does do is informs our next steps in terms of what we think is required for the community and enables us the ability to prioritise which locations first and what, if any, facilities are going to be in those locations. It also enables us to look at the future population growth for our areas and understand through structure planning what facilities are required for that population. So whilst it may seem like we've done a huge amount of work with no specific infrastructure actions, it sets us up to step into that next phase for the next 10 to 15 years whilst keeping our current facilities running over that time period. So it puts us in a really good position on the front foot.
Thank you. Councillor Ronco.
Also, just what was the cost of this report and do we have any funding for it?
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. The cost of the report was $78,000. We did have funding. It was through Alpine Shire Council Bushfire Recovery Initiative for project officers for council. So my understanding is that council contributed 14,000 out of the 78,000, and the residual was funded through that grant.
Thank you. Nothing else?
Councillors, any further questions or comments? No? We'll take this one to the vote then. All those in favour? That is unanimous, thank you. And we move on to item 8.2.4. Ms Buckley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 8.2.4, lease of part of the land known as Crown Allotment 17, Section 9A, Parish of Myrtleford, Myrtleford Indoor Stadium. This report relates to a new lease for part of the land known as Crown Allotment 17, Section 9A, Parish of Myrtleford. This lease seeks to document the terms and conditions under which the property has been used to date, ensuring clarity on obligations and legal compliance for both the Myrtleford Rec Reserve Incorporated as landlord and council as the tenant. The Myrtleford Stadium is an Alpine Shire Council asset located on Crown land, managed by DECA, appointed committee of management known as the Myrtleford Rec Reserve Incorporated. Consent was actually provided by the Department of Youth, Sport and Recreation in 1979, following a request from Council for the stadium to be constructed. The Shire of Myrtleford appointed the Myrtleford Indoor Sports Centre as Committee of Management to manage the stadium on its behalf in 1991. In 2019, the stadium was expanded through funding of $1.3 million from the Victorian Better Indoor Stadiums Fund and $1.25 million from Council and $50,000 from the Myrtleford and District Basketball Association. The management of the stadium is currently the responsibility of the Myrtleford Indoor Stadium Committee, which was appointed by Council. A lease for Council to occupy the land was never finalised. You can refer to Figure 1 for an aerial view of that. The process adopted by Council to enter into a lease is in accordance with the Alpine Shire Council Community Engagement Policy 2024. In accordance with Section 115 of the Local Government Act 2020, a council decision is required to enter into a lease of land for more than 10 years, regardless of the value, and the decision cannot be delegated. The proposed lease fee includes water charges incurred in respect to the stadium during the term of the lease. This fee is paid by the Myrtleford Indoor Stadium Committee. The lease term proposed is 20 years, with the permitted use being for sport or activities in relation to supporting clubs, inclusive of stadium function hire. The facility is included on Council's asset register and is considered a council asset, and Council bear the major maintenance and renewal costs. Council undertook targeted engagement with all relevant stakeholders as part of the proposed lease, and the landowner, DECA, was notified. Therefore, this evening, it is recommended that Council approves and executes a lease for part of the Crown Allotment 17, Section 9A, Parish of Myrtleford, and signs and seals the lease for part of Crown Allotment 17, Section 9A, Parish of Myrtleford at an appropriate stage in the meeting. And apologies, it's worth noting that this document for signing and sealing, whilst confidential as a request from DECA, should be listed in Section 14 of the Council papers, the agenda, as a document for signing and sealing, which we have here this evening.
Thank you, Ms Buckley. Councillors. Councillor Ronco, Councillor Smith. Councillor Ronco.
Nothing to add.
Councillor Smith.
No, all good, thank you.
Any other councillors with questions or comments? Councillor Graham.
Thank you. Ms Buckley, recently we identified that the change rooms toilets were in poor condition. Are you able to give us some update as to where they are at the present stage and where we are going to go forward with them? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Yes, we did identify that, and the renewal and upgrade costs associated with improving those facilities which are needed do reside with Council. Council currently has a grant application in with Sport and Rec Victoria as part of that, and we're awaiting the outcome to understand if we've been successful in that grant, which will largely cover the costs for upgrade and renewal of those facilities and a few other sections within the stadium.
Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Director Buckley. Can you outline who is actually paying the rent as part of the lease, and how do we arrive at the figure of $2,000 per annum?
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. It is a little bit confusing. So the lease is between the Myrtleford Rec Reserve Incorporated and Council, and listed in that lease, which I am able to share, is the cost of $2,000. And that is actually paid by the Myrtleford Stadium Committee as part of user fees for water and electricity, and that is calculated based on previous years of use.
Any further questions or comments from councillors? No, we'll take this item to vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. And we move on now to item 8.3, which is our Director of Corporate and Community, Ms Cook. 8.3.1. Thank you, Ms Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 8.3.1 relates to our domestic animal management plan. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the draft domestic animal management plan and commence community consultation for a period of 4 weeks. A key change within the plan includes the establishment of a Section 25 cat confinement order, which would introduce a 24-hour confinement with a 12-month education and transition period. Under Section 68A of the Domestic Animal Act 1994, councils must prepare a domestic animal management plan every 4 years. The current Alpine Shire domestic animal management plan is currently due for review. The domestic animal management plan only relates to dogs and cats and does not apply to other types of pets, livestock or native animals. The review of the domestic animal management plan has led to the following amendments. The inclusion of pet statistics contained within Agricultural Victoria, the pet census, inclusion of a proposed introduction of a cat confinement order, which I will discuss in more detail in a moment, and deletion of information which has been duplicated in other documents, and also relocated to the draft dog incident policy, which I'll be presenting in the next report. So the main change to the plan is the proposed introduction of a cat confinement order. Under Section 25 of the Act, a council may make an order that makes it an offence for a cat to be found at large, meaning it is away from the property where it is normally kept. This is formally known as a cat confinement order, however it is commonly referred to as a cat curfew. The draft domestic animal management plan outlines the intent to introduce such an order upon the adoption of the plan. This would make it an offence for a cat to be outside the property boundary where it resides. Cats can still enjoy outdoor time as long as they stay within the boundaries of their owner's property. Council recognises that the introduction of a cat confinement order may impact on some cat owners who may have to transition their cats to being indoor cats or to construct enclosures or fencing to enable safe outdoor play. On adoption of the plan, it would be proposed that a transition period is undertaken for a period of 12 months to focus on providing education and guidance to the community to assist in a smooth and practical transition to this requirement. It is proposed that a more compliance-focused approach to the cat confinement order is only applied after this 12-month transition period is finalised. The recommendation is that Council endorses the draft domestic animal management plan to be placed on public exhibition for a period of 4 weeks and in accordance with Council's community engagement policy. invites public submissions regarding the draft domestic animal management plan, and notes that submissions received as part of the exhibition of the draft domestic animal management plan will be considered in the final policy that will be presented to Council to be adopted at a future meeting of Council. I might also add that in the agenda papers today is an attachment which is the draft domestic animal management plan proposed to be put in public exhibition. I am letting you know that there are 3 small formatting errors in the document that I'd like to correct before putting on public exhibition. 2 blank pages which have made their way into the formatting, which we will remove. And one is a small but important error in the document. We have an errant not in section 13, where we have said the policy is not compatible with the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act. It's quite an important not in the wrong place. The policy has been assessed as being compatible with the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act 2006, and we would remove that errant not from the document placed on public submission. My apologies for those errors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cook. Councillors. Councillor Graham has moved. Councillor Byrne has seconded. Councillor Graham.
Thank you. Out of the 79 councils in the state of Victoria, have we identified how many councils actually have a cat curfew? First part of the question. Second part, how many cats do we know are in the Alpine Shire as registered, and how many do we think there are unregistered?
Thank you, Councillor Graham. They are quite tricky questions. Thank you very much. The first question I would have to take on notice. I'd be guessing to give you an actual number of how many councils in Victoria currently have a cat confinement order in place, although there are a number. With regard to the second question, I can give you some information about animal registrations, and for everyone who's listening and for everyone here tonight, please remember animal registrations are due by the 10th of April, your annual animal registrations. Every animal in the Shire, domestic animal over 3 months of age, is required to be registered. So please ensure that you've got your registration notices and undertaking your animal registrations. Aside from that, we have 2,123 currently registered dogs. We have 458 currently registered cats. I couldn't tell you how many cats there are in the Shire. I can only tell you how many registered cats there are. I would suggest there are probably significantly more cats than 458 cats, and we would encourage everyone to please register their cat. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne.
Thanks, Director Cook. Given that this might be quite a contentious policy, some for and some against, can you describe how the engagement will be undertaken?
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. We are very interested in everyone's feedback on this policy. This is quite a change for the Alpine Shire, and we do recognise that. And one of the reasons where we looked at this very seriously on this review of the Domestic Animal Management Plan is actually due to how much feedback we've had over the last few years requesting us to look into a cat curfew. So this has been something that's come up very regularly across the number of years, and so we have looked at it very seriously in this 4-year review of our Domestic Animal Management Plan. We are proposing to engage with the community via the normal type of mechanisms. We'll be putting out a media release. We'll be putting out the policy in hard copy at our libraries if you wish to look at a hard copy and submit that way. We are also looking at putting out via our Engage portal if you're registered on our Engage portal. With our Engage portal, we also have, we're asking some direct questions about cat curfew. So we're asking a little survey on the portal, and the questions we'll ask, do you support a cat curfew? Do you not support a cat curfew? It will say, do you support a cat curfew? Yes, no, or unsure. And so we're really seeking feedback on this in particular. We do recognise this as a change for us. All of that feedback will come back to a council meeting. We will consider it all. We will make any amendments to the plan that we feel is supported by feedback, and we will be putting forward a revised plan based on that feedback for councillors to consider.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from councillors? No. I've got one question. Is there a dog confinement order?
Under the Domestic Animal Management Act, it is already an offence for both cats and dogs, actually, to be at large. However, we haven't to date have a mechanism for enforcing cats at large. We already have mechanisms for enforcing dogs at large. So yes, dogs must be confined as well, or under control when being walked.
Thank you. Councillors, anything else? We take this to the vote. All those in favour? Yep, unanimous. Thank you. And we move on to item 8.3.2, dog incident policy. Thank you, Ms Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item 8.3.2, is our dog incident policy. The purpose of this report is to present the dog incident policy to Council for consideration to commence community engagement for a period of 4 weeks. This is an operational policy which provides the framework for authorised officers to investigate and respond to dog attacks and incidents within the Alpine Shire. The draft dog incident policy sets out the framework and processes by which authorised council officers will operate when responding to dog attacks and related offences, such as dogs wandering at large. The policy provides for transparency and consistency regarding the way council investigates and responds to dog incidents and attacks, and outlines the outcomes and consequences of these investigations. Definitions relating to dog-related incidents are defined, and the policy articulates consequences facing owners of dogs responsible for attacks within the Alpine Shire. Outcomes of dog-related incidents can include a dog being declared menacing or dangerous, and penalties for dog attacks can include significant fines, criminal convictions, payment of council and victim costs, imprisonment, and in some cases the dog being ordered to be destroyed. The legislation which underpins this policy is the Domestic Animal Act of 1994. This act should be referred to whenever additional details or information regarding penalties is required. It is recommended that Council endorses the draft dog incident policy to be placed on community exhibition for a period of 4 weeks and in accordance with Council's community engagement policy, invites public submissions regarding the draft dog incident policy, and notes that submissions received as a part of the exhibition of the draft dog incident policy will be considered, and the final policy will be presented to be adopted at a future meeting of Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cook. Councillors, we have a recommendation in front of us. Councillor Ronco has moved and it is seconded by Councillor Graham. Thank you. Councillor Ronco.
Just notice so this policy is a new policy to put in place.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Yes, we haven't had this policy in place before.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
I've got nothing further to add other than people need to be responsible for their animals. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from councillors? No. I'll take it to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? That is unanimous. Thank you. And we move on to 8.3.3. Ms Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item is 8.3.3, being the performance report to the Council Plan. The Alpine Shire Council Plan 2025 to 2029 was adopted by Council in September 2025 and sets out Council's directions for the following 4 years. This performance report is the first update on progress in the first year of this plan. The Council Plan lists strategic directions, objectives, priorities, major initiatives and indicators for measuring our progress, which, along with guiding legislation and plans, collectively provides direction to Council during its term. The Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan and an Advocacy Plan are also key items contained within the Council Plan document. There are some highlights in the report, and I'm not going to read out all of the highlights in the report in this first report against our council plan. Suffice it to say that the highlights are broken down into our 3 main objectives in our council plan. Objective 1 being customer-focused Alpine, Objective 2 being sustainable and resilient Alpine, and Objective 3 being vibrant and healthy Alpine. In the customer-focused Alpine, a few of the highlights include we've undertaken internally conducted customer surveys over the last few months, requesting for direct feedback from our customers who have interacted with Council. We're using these results from these surveys to help us develop our draft customer charter, which will be coming to a Council meeting very soon. We also have adopted the asset plan in Council in October 2025, and we are undertaking ongoing project prioritisation in accordance with this plan. Under the objective of sustainable and resilient Alpine, grant applications have been made for several capital works projects, which include the Bright to Wollongong Trail and the Kiewa River Trail. In addition, the financial sustainability strategy and the financial plan were adopted by Council in October 2025. Under the objective of vibrant and healthy Alpine, we've had projects progress which assist in supporting participation in sport and physical activity, which include the opening of the Myrtleford Splash Park, upgrades to the Bright Skate Park, and several other projects which are delivered or on track for completion this financial year. The recommendation on this report is that Council receives and notes the performance report, which reports progress to the 31st of January 2026 against our Council plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cook, and you just answered my first question. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Moved Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Graham. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, Ms Cook, I'd just like to, just with the surveys that were conducted earlier, what was the feedback and what sort of numbers are we getting from these surveys? If you could just give us a bit more info on that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. My understanding is that we've conducted 150 internal surveys with customers. The feedback will be summarised and presented in a report with our draft customer charter, which should be coming to Council next month. So I'll be able to provide more granular feedback through that process.
Councillor Graham? Anybody? Councillor Ronco? No, sorry, there was no. Nothing? I wanted to pull out one more item that Ms Cook hasn't touched on. It's under the Vibrant and Healthy Alpine objective, and it is the community climate action work that's going ahead. Sorry. Anyway. Maybe it's not under Objective 3, I thought it was. Anyway, community climate action planning has started, and there's still Engage Alpine open, I believe, for people to put forward their really initial ideas about how communities can get together and become more resilient and potentially keep working towards mitigation. So I just urge people to go to those surveys and fill in. This is the first step. It's really deliberative engagement because we haven't got anything yet concrete to start working with our communities on. So it's a great chance to get really constructive feedback together. So I urge people to put that in. And that's all from me. We'll take this one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? Yes, that's all. Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And we move on to 8.3.4. Ms Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 8.3.4 is the reappointment of Independent Audit and Risk Committee member. The purpose of the report is to recommend the reappointment of an independent member to Council's Audit and Risk Committee for a further 3-year term. Alpine Shire Council's Audit and Risk Committee was established under Section 53(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 and comprises councillor and independent members. The Audit and Risk Committee currently comprises 6 members, 2 councillors and 4 independent members. The Charter provides for independent members to be appointed for an initial term of up to 3 years. At the completion of an appointed term, Section 3.4 of the Charter then provides for the independent member to apply for reappointment to the committee with a maximum of 3 consecutive terms. Independent member Julie Guest was first appointed in July 2021 for a 2-year term and then reappointed in July 2023 for a second term expiring 27th of June 2026. Julie has expressed her desire to continue to serve on the Alpine Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee for a third and final, under the terms of our charter, term. Julie's expertise and experience is outlined in some detail in the report, and she has been a valuable member of the committee over the past 5 years, including chairing for the last 3 financial years. Julie brings direct finance, accounting and local government audit and risk committee experience to our committee. It is recommended that Council reappoints Julie Guest to the Audit and Risk Committee for a 3-year term expiring the 27th of June 2029. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cook. Councillors. Councillor Byrne. Councillor Smith. Councillor Byrne.
I'd just like to note Julie's professional and valued input has been phenomenal during her previous 2 terms. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Smith? Nothing to add? Any other councillor to comment on? No? I think we could just reiterate what a valuable committee this is, and it's partly because of the calibre of people like Ms Guest. Take this one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. And we move on to item 8.3.5, Audit and Risk Committee minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 8.3.5 is our Audit and Risk Committee minutes of our meeting held on the 20th of February 2026. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 20th of February 2026, and the recommendation is that Council receives and notes the unconfirmed meetings of that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cook. Councillors. Councillor Byrne. Councillor Graham. Councillor Byrne.
Nothing to add.
Councillor Graham.
Nothing to add there either.
Anything from anybody else? No. We'll take this one to the vote. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We move on now to item 9, informal meetings of councillors, and there is a list of the briefing sessions that we've had, which we need to declare, and the information that we talked about is in the attachments. There's a recommendation that the summary of informal meetings of councillors for February and March 2026 be received. Councillors. Councillor Ronco, Councillor Tanzan. Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Councillor Tanzan. Is there any comments from any councillors? No? All those in favour? It's carried unanimously, thank you. We move on to presentation of reports by delegates, and I am going to start at my left with Councillor Tanzan. Councillor Smith?
No, nothing bad.
Councillor Graham?
No.
Councillor Ronco?
Yes, on the 3rd March 2026, I attended the Alpine Resilience Partnership, who was held at the Pavilion Pioneer Park in Bright. So it was again a well-attended meeting by all the emergency services and all the people from the Alpine Resilience Partnership. First, we review the action from the last meeting, and and we check also on the project pipeline. So potential project raised was drought readiness and preparedness supporting AJ-VIC and water-wise project education. So we have also VicPol. We had their feedback from this summer, what's happened in Shire. We have an update also on the Loop, the website, for have more information about the different agency regarding emergency. And after we went to other business, and I noticed that at this time it was in March, early March, so we were always monitoring the situation with the bushfire restoration over the summer. So it what was happening. And the next meeting will be held the 7th of May. The location has to be determined, but yeah, the 7th of May 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ronco. Councillor Byrne, do you have any reports from delegates? And neither do I. So we move on then to general business, and I'm going to start on my, taking in turns on my right. Councillor Byrne. Councillor Ronco.
Yes, this month I've been, I think all residents and everyone know about economic development and the situation in the Middle East, and I wanted to address to residents that were aware, and we try our best to advocate for our residents. And I noticed the Victoria government opened public transport for free, so it's very good for people who want to travel here. So instead to use cars and to come by public transport. And also yesterday, I think it was federal government announced a 50% reduction on the fuel excise. So it's still an evolving situation, and we try to advocate for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Councillor Graham.
Thank you. Just building on Councillor Ronco's concerns with the fuel rebates, are you able to inform the council and the public how the fuel situation is affecting the Alpine Shire, both our own expenses and also our contractors?
Thank you. Is that best? Yep. Thank you, Ms. Buckley.
Thank you, Councillor Graham and Madam Mayor. Obviously, there's a lot of operations at council where we utilise fuel from our operations teams, also through to the contracts that we let. The main impact internally is through our what's called our engineering and maintenance team, where the operations team sits. So we are keeping an eye on how much financial impact that will incur while fuel is higher. We've done financial modelling, and we're understanding whether we can afford the increase in fuel within our existing budgets. Obviously, if the fuel goes beyond a certain price, we would consider cutting back some services. However, we're not at that point yet. In relation to our external contracts, those that may be affected, obviously waste is a big one. We've got our major curbside waste contract and waste haulage contracts, and several other contracts that we're looking at the moment to understand what council's liability is for any possible variations that may be put forward. So it's a watch this space, and where my teams are all well across it from that perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Smith? Councillor Tenzin?
Yeah, just quickly, just on the fuel, I think it's good to note for the residents that Transport Victoria are doing free travel from today until the 30th of April. So if things are getting a bit tight, that's a really good thing to look at. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Tenzin. And I will add too that for people who come on holiday up here, even though they have to pay for fuel to get here and get home, once you get here, you can pretty much walk and ride. So take public transport's even the best, but you can leave your car behind once you get here, which is good. But definitely watching this space. So good, great questions and great conversation in general business. I'd like to move to the email that we got late yesterday, so very late yesterday, so outside the cut-off time for a question notice, and it wasn't actually a question anyway. It was concern being raised about a significant increase in childcare fees across the Alpine Shire, and the concern included a decreased capacity for parents to work, and then the extension about how that may play out across our communities and what effect that may have. So I guess I wanted to let the person who sent the message in that let her know that we've heard it, but I wonder if the CEO or other directors would like to talk to it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you noted, this is emerging news. We found out yesterday evening, and it was confirmed today through a message from Alpine Children's Services that there's been a need for them to increase their service fees. We don't have a lot of information at this stage other than to note that we're aware of it. So my recommendation to Council on behalf of the community is that we line up a briefing and seek for Alpine Children's Services to come to Council and to just provide some background and explain the basis for the increase in fees.
Thank you. Do councillors have anything else they'd like to add? Discussion? No. I will then, that's all for me for general business. I would invite Mr. Jeremy to... Oh, Mr. Jeremy doesn't have any either. So we can move on to... Oh dear, the screen's gone again. To motions for which notice has previously been given and we don't have any. Reception and reading of petitions. We don't have any. Documents for signing and sealing, and we have one, although it's not written in the agenda at this point in time. So we need to take this one to the vote, councillors. So a mover and a seconder, please.
If I may, Madam Mayor, just read out the document.
Thank you.
So it's the lease of part of the land known as Crown Allotment 17, Section 9A, Paris of Myrtleford, and it relates to the stadium, Myrtleford Stadium.
Thank you. So now can I have a mover and a seconder for the signing and sealing of the document, please? Someone has to move and second that we'll sign this document. Thank you, Mr. Councillor Smith. Councillor Ronco. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 15 is confidential reports. We have none. Item 16 is the closure of the meeting, and it is 6:40, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much, everyone who came, and please feel welcome to